Another thing we didn't know is that people in those towns are not able to make a differentiation between police and military forces. They think they all are the same. And for us, it was very important to make them understand the difference between them. So we had to explain them, military forces are always dressed in camouflaged, and police is not. That was the way to telling them how to evaluate the military forces work and not the police work. I don't know if it was said in the video, but some interviewers were kidnapped, and they had the questionnaires, and in the questionnaires was written all the information of the interviewee. So that when that happened, we noticed how dangerous it was for the persons who weren't answering the questionnaire, that they were identified and their opinion about the military forces was assigned to them in particular. So what we did is we had two different formats for registering the information, the questionnaire with the general information, and they had another format another document where the information from the person interviewed was registered, exactly, and they had it in another bag, or they had a bag with two separate places. Yeah. They put the one there, and then if they were kidnapped, they were supposed to give the questionnaire without the informant's names and personal information and contact information, so that they could not be identified.
We don't have that in our building.
Kidnapped.
There were 18 hours someplace.
And you negotiated for them?
Yeah, no, we didn't know, only afterwards. When they went out and they called and said we were 18 hours with them, they wanted to know what we were doing and so on. In terms of the questionnaire design, there were very interesting things about how questions were written, because interviewees should not notice through the questions that there was a preconceived position against the guerrillas. So, for example, when we were talking about if they agree or they don't agree with what different institutions are doing in the region, we included institutions like the church and other different than only guerrillas and military forces, so that they didn't really know what we were evaluating.
You covered the subject.
Yeah, exactly. Another important thing that was not asking them directly about their perception, what is your perception, or do you approve what they are doing or what they are not doing, but to ask, what do people think here in this region? Only in third person, not you. Exactly. We had for the second wave, for the wave in 2011, we had a very, very in-depth review sessions of the questionnaire with the military forces itself to really define what were the key aspects we should measure. And among the things we did was to include exactly the same questions that we were asking with regard to guerrillas, with regard to military forces, so that it really looked impartial, that it really looked unbiased. And we didn't say anything negative directly about the guerrillas. Are they killing people? No. Every phrase we made was positively.
Can you give me an example?
No, not that it says something positive about them, but not in they are not good, or they are not, it was always.
So like agree, not agree, and
yeah,
so he
exactly.
doesn't agree that they are great.
Exactly.
But what's written is they are great.
On the other hand, for the second year we conducted the study, we made many validity and reliability statistical tests with regard to all the attributes that we were, and the questions that we were making. And after working so hard with the client for designing the right questions and for the wording of the questions and so on, it was really surprising to find so good results with regard to the validity and reliability of the attributes we were measuring. It was really like we only had seen this kind of measurements in theory, but then we were thinking maybe when you really sit with the client and think about it strongly, and it really gets good. You really can get a very good questionnaire after working so hard and after really thinking how things should be asked. The other thing, what we usually work with our own personnel. We don't use subcontractors. And in this occasion, many of our interviewers quit the job. They didn't want to work anymore on the project. So we had to subcontract in some municipalities. Sorry.
No, one question about this Sprungbox alpha. Did you calculate that on the general set, or did you also use it to exclude subjects?
Also to exclude subjects.
Okay, so you had quite a few items which were in parallel.
Exactly, yeah. So what we did is we had to work with subcontractors from the regions, from near those municipalities, and what we did was using our already trained and capable interviewers to being always with one of the subcontractors in the areas. So we spread our interviewers in the country, and they worked with those subcontractors, interviewers. And this is one of the cases when you don't only train your interviewers with regard to the methodology and the questionnaire and so on, but we had really to train them with regard to security conditions and to many things they had to all those things that they had to face. So there was a special training with regard to that. They met the police every time. They got themselves the instructions directly from the police. So it was really a different job in terms of what you usually do in market research. With regard to quality controls, we usually contact 35% of the interviewees. Afterwards, we do back checking to 35% of the interviews. And this time we tried to contact persons, but then we got no answers. Many had fear. They said afterwards they did not answer the questionnaire. So on the one hand, we prepared a specific speech to give them when they were asked, so that they knew that they were going to be called afterwards, and they should not be afraid of answering or telling that they answered the survey. But on the other hand, anyway, we had to contact the whole sample again, and it was a very big sample, and we had to contact it all again, and that's what we got in terms of having people saying, yes, I answered it, 32% in the first wave and 38% in the second wave, In terms of the report, we have been working with public institutions for many years, for different kind of institutions, and I think it's really different from working for marketing institutions or for marketing people. So we have a team of sociologists that are trained for understanding the situation, for giving adequate recommendations related to this kind of phenomenon. And that's how we also did in this case. They worked on the analysis. We had many variables. We were collecting more than 200 variables in each time. So what we did is we constructed some indicators about many topics like optimism, security, state presence, illegal group presence, military forces image, and that's the way we presented to the results to the military forces. There was another big restriction, which was the infrastructure.
Facing infrastructure issues. The security perception study conducted by Jan Haas also contains the research work made in countries with poor telephone service, road infrastructure, and urbanistic conditions. Telephone. Controlled percentages through methodology. The higher ranks of the military forces demanded telephone and personal surveys. Nevertheless, there were many obstacles to overcome. Unassigned, out of order, or unused telephone numbers. Poorly produced telephone guides. Non-existent telephone lines in some populations. Out-of-order telephone lines as a consequence of the winter. Bad sound quality on the calls led to respondents abandoning the survey. Urbanism. Reduced size of the municipal center, Libuya. Lack of address numbering on buildings. Road infrastructure. Winter. The research was made during the last months of the year when Colombia was hit by the Niño phenomenon. In consequence, 10% of the municipalities were hard to access as a result of road landslides, closed roads, restricted paths, and multiple floods. Limited transportation offer. Although transportation was mainly through inter-municipality buses, schedules and availability were not always suiting our needs. In addition, for some populations that were distant or hard to access, we had to look for unusual transportation methods such as chalupas, chivas, mototaxis, and boats.